Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
5 confirmed deaths in the Bahamas as Hurricane Dorian continues to pound the archipelago. Our top story in the Caribbean Newsline for Monday, September 2nd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. 5 people have been confirmed dead and several others missing after the most powerful hurricane to impact the Bahamas slammed into the northern Abaco Islands and remained stationary over Grand Bahama on Friday evening. A Category 5 Hurricane Dorian made landfall on Elbow Key in the Abaco Islands with 185-mile-per-hour winds on Sunday. It slowed to a crawl, causing catastrophic impacts. Dorian flooded out homes and other buildings and entire communities, flipped cars, ripped roofs and homes apart, downed utility poles and trees, and left several residents who refused to comply with the advice to evacuate, pleading for help. An 8-year-old boy was the first death reported. Hachino McIntosh drowned after his family attempted to relocate during the hurricane. The boy's grandmother, Ingrid McIntosh, spoke to Eyewitness News about the tragedy.
All I could say is that my granddaughter called my daughter from Abaco and said, my daughter said her son, my grandson dead. That's it. It ain't nothing more I can say because I don't know what really happened.
Did they say how he died?
I think they say he drowned. My grandson dead. I just seen my grandson about 2 days ago. My grandson just tell me he loved me. He was going back to Abaco. He turned around and he said, Grammy, I love you. You know what I tell my grandson? I say, I feel so good because I haven't heard that in a long time from no one. And I just...
McIntosh said her daughter was able to retrieve the boy's body, but his sister is still missing. While Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis described the destruction as a historic tragedy as he confirmed the fatalities and mass destruction in the Abaco Islands. He says the focus will now be on search, rescue and recovery. Minnis says rapid assessment teams are on standby and there are local and regional and international teams ready to assess needs and damages. The Prime Minister says exigency orders have been signed to help with the relief efforts, including waiving landing and customs fees in affected areas. And we'll get back to Prime Minister Minnis speaking at the press conference there in a few minutes. While the Prime Minister asked Bahamians who were unaffected by the hurricane to open their homes to friends and family in need and donate to reputable organizations. And he urged people not to send reports or images that appear to be untrue. While reports are still coming in from Grand Bahama, where after moving painstakingly slow across the Abaco Islands, Dorian is lingering. It has weakened slightly to a Category 4 strength with maximum sustained winds near 145 miles per hour. But that means very little for residents who are trying to find safe ground from the severe flooding caused by the hurricane as it lingers over the island. They've been forced to retreat to ceilings as flood waters rise and are pleading for help. At 5 p.m., Dorian was 25 miles northeast of Grand Bahama's main city, Freeport, and according to the National Hurricane Center, it was stationary. It is expected to remain so for a while longer. The NHC said a slow westward to west-northwestward motion is expected to resume overnight and continue into early Tuesday, and a turn toward the northwest is forecast by late Tuesday with a northeastward motion forecast to begin by Wednesday night. It means the core of the extremely dangerous Hurricane Dorian will continue to pound Grand Bahama Island into Tuesday morning before moving near the Florida East Coast late Tuesday through Wednesday evening. Although gradual weakening is forecast, Dorian is expected to remain a powerful hurricane during the next couple of days. And we go back to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis speaking at a press conference on Monday evening.
Fortunately, today we do not have legislation in place for mandatory evacuation. But as I speak, I can assure all Bahamians that upon our return to Parliament, we will introduce legislation for mandatory evacuation. And I would hope that the opposition would concur and support us in this legislation. This is not the time for politics. This is not the time for red or yellow. We must wrap ourselves in one flag, not red flag, not yellow flag, but the Bahamian flags. And if I know my Attorney General, he's sitting down at this present time drafting the legislation so the legislation can be brought in. But the Bahamian people now see the necessity. Also those who were objecting, they now see the necessity of bringing forth this legislation. And I'm certain that we would have very minimal objection. There are many legislations we are drafting, bring forth. We never anticipate a hurricane of 180 going up to 200. That places legislations in priority. You gave us 5 years. We would utilize that 5 years to bring forth the legislations that we promised. You did not promise us 1 month.
And that was actually Prime Minister Minnis speaking on Sunday, saying that mandatory evacuation legislation will be a priority for his government once Parliament resumes, despite a government warning to residents to evacuate areas that were in the path of the hurricane. Some refused to leave their communities and were caught in the middle of the hurricane's devastation. Minnis expressed disappointment and sadness that many had not heeded his warning. But he defended his administration's stalled pace on the promised legislation, telling reporters that no one could have anticipated a monster storm, Hurricane Dorian. Well, we now go back to Prime Minister Minnis speaking to the nation on Monday.
Thus far, the Royal Bahamas Police Force has confirmed that there are 5 deaths in Abaco. Teams will go to Abaco as soon as possible for full and proper assessment and identification. The initial reports from Abaco is that the devastation is unprecedented and extensive. They are deeply worrying. The images and videos we are seeing are heartbreaking. Many homes, businesses, and other buildings have been completely or partially destroyed. There is an extraordinary amount of flooding and damage to infrastructure. I wish to report that the United States Guard is already on the ground in Abaco and has rescued a number of injured individuals. Critically injured individuals are being taken to the Princess Margaret Hospital here on New Providence. Through various channels, we are continuing to monitor events in Abaco and Grand Bahama, as well as Bimini and the Berry Islands, which are continuing to receive tropical storm winds.
Meantime, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency based in Barbados, SEDEMA, has deployed rapid needs assessment teams to both Grand Bahama and Abaco, where there are a total of 76,000 residents. But Executive Director Donald Jackson told a news conference on Monday the all-clear may not be given until Wednesday, and this may impact efforts to provide assistance.
Or information from the local Met Office was that they were expecting an all-clear to be given Tuesday afternoon. With the change in forward speed, this is now looking to be optimistic at best. But pessimistically, we are thinking that this is likely to be Wednesday before the all clear is given. The implications of that is it will delay any ability to get into these two islands and to collect specific information on the level of impact.
Jackson added that Sedema is working with authorities in Abaco to get to the most vulnerable members of that population.
We know that on Abaco, there are particular enclaves of Haitian migrants that are located on the island. And so we're looking at the needs of those individuals and working with authorities to better understand who are the persons that make up this particular population. When I say who, I mean how many of them are children, how many are adults, how many are elderly, etc. What we do know that of the population, the 76,000 that we mentioned, I think, is it 15% are children? 22% are children, 22%. 70% is classified as between the ages of 15 to 64, and the remaining percentages are persons over the age of 64.
Dominica is among regional governments ready to help the Bahamas as well, announcing an initial donation of $100,000 US. Deputy Prime Minister Reginald Austri announced on Monday morning that the island would also assist in the education of Bahamian children if possible. A meeting was to be held later in the day with chairpersons of the Office of Disaster Management, Security Services, the heads of utility companies, and representatives of the private sector to discuss a more comprehensive package of assistance. The announcement by Austri came even as Dominica is still recovering from the pounding it got from Category 5 Hurricane Maria in September 2017. Back then, the Bahamas had also gone to Dominica's aid.
It will be very vivid in our minds that just 2 years ago, under 2 years ago, we were faced with a similar challenge. And the Bahamas was one of the first countries to offer us some assistance. And we believe that this is an opportunity not for us to reciprocate, but to act on humanitarian grounds and to offer whatever assistance we can within our limited resources. The government stands firmly behind the government and people of the Bahamas during this dark moment. The Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has been in touch with the Prime Minister Hubert Immins of the Bahamas to personally express his solidarity and his support.
Other CARICOM countries have also offered support for the Bahamas. Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago and St. Lucia are among those who pledged their support for their CARICOM neighbor. Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, the embattled head of the Public Service Association in Trinidad to step down. We'll be right back with the details. We continue in Trinidad and Tobago, where the embattled president of the Public Service Association, Watson Duke, who's facing a sedition charge, is calling it quits in that post. He said on Monday that he intends to step down to concentrate on leading his Progressive Democratic Patriots, the PDP, into the next general elections that are constitutionally due by December 2020. Duke, who is also minority leader of the Tobago House of Assembly, said November 30th would be his last day as head of the union.
I have done all that I can at this point, and I cannot do any more. I've trained my team, I've trained my successor, I've tried to solve negotiations. But from the 1st of December, I will become a full-time, fully dedicated representative of the Tobago House of Assembly in the capacity as minority leader.
Duke said his party intends to contest the Tobago East and West seats currently held by the ruling People's National Movement. Speaking for the first time about the sedition charge on which he was released on $250,000 TT bail last week, Duke said it was trumped up. He said he found it strange that he was arrested 9 months after he allegedly made the seditious remark. That's in November last year. Duke is back in court on December 13th. Parents are encouraged to seek help for their children with learning disabilities. Jamaica gets a boost in addressing NCDs, and Dominica to roll out the HPV vaccine this school year. Maria Claire Williams has the details in this week's Newsline Health.
As students head back to school this week, there is some advice to parents to look out for signs of possible learning deficiencies in their children and take early steps to get help. This advice comes from clinical psychologist in Belize, Deshane Gutierrez.
It's important that parents, one, are cognizant of their child learning style, knowing what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. Assess where your child really is. You know, what is the child struggling with? Is it just a particular topic? Is it a subject? Or is it overall your child is struggling at reading? If your child is struggling at reading, then remedial would be the best option at this point.
She also warns against comparing children with other children, as this could do more harm than good. And Gutierrez suggests a screening assessment for children who are struggling.
An assessment doesn't always have to be formal. It could be very informal, just to check and see what really the child is struggling with. A child could be assessed for prerequisite for a learning disability for as young as 4 years old. So as young as 4 years old, their early reading skills will help to determine if they will develop into a learning disability or having reading challenges. So if you're noticing when the child is reaching preschool, the child is having difficulty with rhymes, difficulty with the songs, then those are already indication, okay, is this, while some children learn differently, some faster than others, you still want to keep a relationship with the preschool teacher to see what they are seeing within the child within the classroom setting already as young as 4 years old.
Jamaica is now better able to analyze the sugar, salt and fat content of food products. This follows an upgrade of labs at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica and the Scientific Research Council. Health Minister Christopher Tufton says the facilities will now provide baseline information on the concentration of sugar, salt and fat in food products that contribute to non-communicable diseases. He says the data collected will also help government to set evidence-based national guidelines for these ingredients.
For the population, it means that we will be in a position, based on this work, to give you better particulars, better information around the things that you put in your bodies, things that you consume, and you have a right to know.
Dominica plans to roll out the human papillomavirus HPV vaccine this school year in a bid to reduce cervical cancer. This is the second highest cause of death among women there. Acting Health Promotion Coordinator Mignon Roll Shillingford says one of the goals is to prevent children from getting any type of cancers associated with the HPV virus. And the Ministry of Health has already done a number of empowerment and advocacy training sessions in that regard. A number of other Caribbean countries have also implemented the HPV vaccine. Marie-Claire Williams, Newsline Health.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies decimated in the second test against India. The details after the break.
And over here by Cayman A, we're making a little bit of mayonnaise-based dressing. Lime juice is going in.
Now, if you think you can afford to give up 10 points in this competition, you have something else coming. I've seen this competition being won with a fraction of a point. So if you think you're safe giving up any of those 10 minutes, you better think again.
We're down to 15 minutes and 23 seconds, so the heat starts to get up a little bit here.
We continue with sports and some not so good news for West Indies fans. West Indies lost their last 6 wickets for 65 runs in quick time to tumble to a massive 257-run defeat to India inside 4 days of the second test in Jamaica on Monday. Set an improbable target of 468, West Indies were dismissed for 210 in their second innings, nearly half hour before tea. Shamar Brooks top scored with exactly 50, while captain Jason Holder got 39 and Jermaine Blackwood 38. But India's varied attack proved clinical in the second session to bring a swift end to the contest at Sabina Park. Unbeaten at lunch on 39, Brooks completed his maiden test 50 before becoming the second wicket to fall after the interval run out by Virat Kohli's direct hit. Brooks, who faced 119 balls and struck 9 fours, put on 60 for the third wicket, first with Darren Bravo and then with Froston Chase, before adding a further 61 for the fifth wicket with Blackwood. Blackwood on 36 at tea was the first to fall when he was caught at slip off seamer Jasprit Bumrah. Jamar Hamilton fell 2 balls after Brooks with no addition to the total at 177 for 7, and the other debutant, Rakeem Cornwall, perished in the next over, caught behind off Mohamed Shami, leaving Windies on the brink. West Indies failed to win a single match on tour, suffering a 3-0 clean sweep in the 2020 series and a 2-0 loss in the 3-match one-day series. Well, after the match, a dejected Jason Holder bemoaned the side's batting performance. He said each batsman has to take personal responsibility before their next test assignment next year.
Obviously disappointed. We didn't play a complete cricket game in any of these two test matches. Still a lot of problems with the batting. We just need to be able to put some scores on the board and fight out some tough periods. I think it's an individual thing. We just need to pay special attention on this off period. I don't think we play another test match until mid next year. So it's quite a bit of time now off. It's just a matter for the guys to take ownership of their own professional games and look to do some work.
And the captain commended the world #1 team for their performance.
Yeah, obviously a quality side. They play some really good cricket. I think the beauty about them, they weighed us down. They knew our bowling was, pretty strong, and it's a matter they made us work really hard for our wickets. And they made us spend long periods on our feet. and then we obviously got a chance to bat, we didn't bat well enough, you know, but that's the quality of good sides, you know, they tend to play the patience game quite long, and, you know, if you don't have the patience, you know, stand up to the patience that they bring, you know, it's a mental grind from there, and, you know, obviously succumb to the pressure.
Holder also heaped praises on the bowling department.
Yeah, again, pleased with the bowlers, you know, every single time we ask them to come up and bowl, you know, they always come up and give 100%. You know, we were just commenting in the dressing room, you know, we've been in the field every single day of this test series, you know, from the first test match right to this one. So it's been a heavy workload on the bowlers, you know, and at no point in time have they dropped their heads, you know, have they dropped their hands, you know, they've always put their hands up and come and do a job for us.
To football now, veteran Reggae Boys striker Darren Mattox will miss this year's CONCACAF Champions League, which kicks off later this month. TVJ's Simon Preston has the details.
After scoring 4 goals in 5 games to begin the English Championship with Preston North End, 26-year-old Daniel Johnson has received his first call-up to the national team. Johnson, who was born in Kingston, was part of Jamaica's 40-player pool for the CONCACAF Gold Cup, but wasn't selected in the final 23. The other new addition to the squad is forward Bobby Reid. Reid is currently with Fulham on loan from Cardiff City. TVJ sports football analyst O'Neill 1878 Meredith weighed in on the new additions.
Both of them really, I'm excited to see Bobby Reid. Saw him with Bristol earlier and he looked the part. So I am happy that they are part of it, because whatever ammunition we need to get through to the next round and at least qualify for the World Cup we're going to need. And I'm happy to see them in the team. They bring a little bit of youth and also freshness.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Is a lovely place to visit with lots of great attractions like the Game On Sports Complex where we are right now. Also, you can feed giraffes at the local zoo. You can watch Longhorn Parade down the street on the weekends, and you can also stuff your face with barbecue, which is what you're about to see me do at Heim Barbecue. So check it out for yourself. Go to fortworth.com.
A recap of the day's major developments: 5 confirmed deaths in the Abaco Islands of the Bahamas, even as Hurricane Dorian continues to pound Grand Bahama, lingering over the island where it is expected to remain stationary late into the night. And in sport, West Indies lose the second test against India by 257 runs and concede the series. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.